Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Pastor Brian Morris. Hello, 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 and welcome to another live forum. I hope you're doing well today. It is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, and of course, Kayla, come here, honey. Come here, honey. Come here, honey. It never fails. Come here. What do you need? What do you need? Say hello. Hi. Okay, are you finished? Okay, go get your sister. Thank you. Okay. So we're here. So we're here for Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. I felt we're going to have a great conversation. It's just me and my brother today. The ladies are off as they should be. So it's just us, and we're going to see what happens today in our conversation. So without further ado, let me bring my brother on, Prophet Adam Watson. What's going on, brother? You turned around. There you go.
Happens all the time.
Yes.
You know what? I know what it is. It's the fact that when I stream, I use StreamYard.
Oh, okay.
And so my iPhone doesn't like me because it's partial to restream.
Mm-hmm.
So every time I go live with y'all, it comes on backwards.
Yeah.
You're backwards for being with StreamYard.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Good morning, good evening, good night. God bless you to whenever that you are watching this. Welcome to the My Life Forum for Men.
That's good. I like that's good. That's good. I like that because baby, it's been my life over the past few weeks. I've been feeling really bad because I've been out of the loop because it's been such a hectic week. But I realized I'm starting to, and I guess this can go into the conversation. I'm really starting to understand where my breaking points are because I've kind of really just stretching myself to the point to where it's like I've got way too many things going on at once. And usually I'm like, okay, I can do this, I can do that, whatever like that. But I've realized I've completely stretched to the point to where it's like, okay, when I feel like I don't have anything to do, I realize I forgot two things that I was supposed to do.
Yes,
And yeah, so
it's
you know,
of a good heart, a great gift, and a lack of an executive assistant.
That is true. That is true. I've been searching for one high and low, but I'm also realizing I'm like I don't have to do everything, and I don't have to be everybody's answer.
Yes, sir.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's one thing. The only thing that I'm responsible for being there for at all times and the answer to is what's going on in this house, and everything else takes second or third seat.
Yes, sir. I'm gonna change I think I'm thinking about changing my voicemail to Jesus is the answer for the world today.
So you give him a call. You give him a call.
Right.
Right. Don't call me, call him.
Whoever answers first can get him first.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we are in mental health awareness month. Brother, tell me what in your own words, what does mental health awareness mean for you personally?
Got it. I'm cognizant that our major demographic, our dominant, I should say, demographic here at the LYFE Forum is women. But like I said, this is the men's night. So men's mental health awareness, I believe is both a declaration and a warning. Because I believe that it's a declaration to make everybody understand that the world has been deceived when it comes to men's mental health. It began in love, but it's only processed through pain. So when your babies are born, right? The first thing they learn about daddy is that daddy's strong.
Mm-hmm.
He can take care of anything. If I have any problem, I'm going to run to him. He's going to pick me up. He's going to make it feel all better because he's daddy. You get into Christendom, and how do we pray? Our Father, Daddy, you're in heaven. You're high above all our issues, and your name is separate and separate from everybody else's. And we praise that title of Daddy. He's a man. He's a man's man. He can handle it. And so, as a declaration, we praise it. We praise it with lip service. Side fuss for a minute. I wonder. So Mother's Day. On Mother's Day, my wife and I went out, and for about a month before Mother's Day, you can turn on the TV without finding stuff for Mother's Day. We are going to honor the womb that gave you, that you came in, but not the seed that activated the womb, right? So what was funny was I started looking for Father's Day stuff on television 2 weeks out before Father's Day. Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. On Father's Day, we went out to eat at the restaurant. Not a single female at a restaurant said Happy Father's Day. Do you know who was saying Happy Father's Day? Other fathers.
Yeah.
Because other fathers understand the pressure. So we get the declaration, and the declaration says, man, take care of your mental health. Because respectfully, very few others are going to do it. And when I say very few others, I mean very few others. Females from the top down, great-grandmom, grandmom, mom, wife, your daughters, they got you. Father's Day. Your daughters, they got you. They won't miss it at all. Your sons might. But your daughters won't. And so it's like they're like, okay, I got a dad. Let me celebrate that.
Yeah.
And so that's it's a declaration. Men, look at your mental health, because a lot of people won't. The warning is people don't pay attention to the stress, to the lack of mental health maintenance.
Yeah.
That should be put into a man's life until that man breaks.
Yeah.
And I'll shut it down by asking the question and turning it back to you, Bishop. Where were you, and how long ago was it that you started hearing about the line of pastors committing suicide, falling deep into depression, and having these mental health issues? How long ago was it? And since you've noticed it, has there been a major uprise in dealing with that on a global stage? Not from what you and Coach She do, but outside of what you have been called to. Have you seen a rise
of suicides with pastors and leaders?
I know that we've seen that. I'm like, how long ago did you start noticing it? And have you seen a major rise in mental health awareness as it relates to our men?
Oh, yes. Before I go into that, you touched something that I thought was funny, because I did when you talk about searching for Father's Day, for things on TV, whatever like that. I'm gonna tell a funny story, then I'll go to the I'll give you an answer with that.
Okay.
So So I'm preparing for service for Father's Day. So one of the churches that I do worship at, I say, hey, what, because we did a whole lot for we did a whole thing for Mother's Day. I said, what are we doing for Father's Day? People are saying, um, I don't know anything like that. Like there's really nothing that they've got, prepared for Father's Day. So I'm like, okay, well, let me do something musically because for Mother's Day, a lot of a few of the guys we got together and we sang "Mama" for Mother's Day. But there's many songs that you could
Right.
find, plethora of songs for Mother's Day. So I'm trying to figure out some songs to sing or whatever like that. So I asked the team, this crazy. I said, question. I said I need help finding songs for Father's Day. Immediately they start sending me, well, how about we can sing a good father, we can do such and such. And I texted them, I said, I'm asking for songs that celebrate fathers, not the father.
Right. Right. Not
I'm
Abba.
like, we get it. I'm like, Lord, I love you. You get it every day. You get it
Right.
every day. Every Sunday is yours. But I'm looking for a song specifically that honors fathers.
Right.
And then everybody was like, "Oh, that's tough." And I'm like, we realize how much. The only thing I could think of that was an honor that it wasn't an honor for fathers was Papa was a Rolling Stone, and then I refuse to sing Dance with My Father. I refuse.
Right.
I'm not doing that.
Right. It's the only song we can
It's the only
really
song that
hear.
it's the only positive song that we have, but but you don't get it until you're dead.
Right. Right.
You know what I'm saying? So but as far as when it comes to the leadership, pastoral leadership, spiritual leadership, or whatever like that, and when it came, I remember when the uptick of suicides when it came to spiritual leaders, because I remember one, and then there was at some point it was a concern, but then it was all of a sudden it started to happen back to back.
Yes, sir.
It almost was kind of like, it was one month. I forgot. I can't forget the first one that it was, but I do remember that it happened one month, and then the second month there was another pastor who committed suicide. And at this point it was starting to become across the board because you had pastors of different denominations. You had you had a black pastor, then you had a white pastor over here.
Right.
It started to become, it really started to become a situation where it's like, okay, we really need to start um understanding that there is some level of mental health when it comes to leadership that we need to focus on. So I'm starting to see it now, but I think it's because it's led by the charge of those who are millennials and Gen Z.
Okay.
The when I look at those who are older than me, um, they still kind of they still have that kind of issue where it's like, okay, they don't necessarily fully want to embrace mental health because they feel like because they feel like, oh, suck it up. That's the world. That's life. Get over it. You made to endure. I get it. I get it, and we are made to endure. But I think the problem is that, especially us as men, we do more internalizing than we do releasing. Because one thing that we've always been taught was to what? Suck it up.
Yeah.
And
Have
and
nothing nice to say.
it,
Don't say nothing at all.
right, right. So what I feel like that did was it made us. Although I could understand what they were trying to say or trying to do, I think the issue came is that we internalize that how you're feeling, what you're feeling, really doesn't matter to the grand scheme of things. So just go ahead and keep moving. But what it happened, but what it did for us, we've internalized rather than being able to feel what we feel and then be able to release it out of our body, because we weren't, a lot of us were not taught how to successfully feel what we feel, and then it be okay, and then move on from the process.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, what we're dealing with a lot of rage, we're dealing with a lot of anger, we're dealing with a lot of things that we've been trained not to give necessarily, not to necessarily give full attention to.
Uh-huh.
Because for women, for women, they're capable. They can cry, they can do this, they can do that, whatever like that. And it's they can do that all day. But I've always thought that made women actually a lot more emotionally intelligent when it comes to themselves personally,
Mm-hmm.
because they have been given opportunity to be able to fully emote and to be able to feel everything that they're feeling, let it pass through. They can speak to it and then start the healing process. A lot of times for brothers, we can't even get through the understanding of what we've been through yet. So we don't even get through we don't even get to the healing process. Now consider the weight you're dealing with, issues of just manhood. Then you're dealing with the with some of the weight of being a husband, the weight of being a father, and then you take on the responsibility of building, establishing, and being someone who is responsible for the house of God.
Yes, sir.
And that in itself is a very strong level of responsibility and accountability that really remove for if we're doing it the way that we've been taught to, it literally removes us out of the home in order to be so focused on what we would consider to be God's house. But I feel like that there is a generation of spiritual leaders that are trying to um, balance it and rebalance it in a way that we have the ability and the capability to live a balanced life while pastoring a church. One thing I did say when we started Evolution, I'm like, I want this time of pastoring, I want to enjoy it. And
Yes.
when I said it, people looked at me a little strange because of the fact that we've always been taught that pastoring was not supposed to be enjoyable. It's supposed to be a struggle. It's supposed to be a sacrifice. You're giving yourself up to the church. But then
Right.
I remember I did some research about the first generation church. I said, let me look at what pastoring is supposed to be. And I looked at and I did my research, and I did some research on the first generation church, and it talked about how pastoring from the first generation standpoint, right after Jesus, was supposed to be um, a shared responsibility. It wasn't until Constantine and the Roman Empire took on Christianity as the premier religion, and commercialized it to where they felt like that Christianity had to look like Rome. So what did Rome have in leadership? They had an emperor. So now the weight of responsibility was no longer set, of pastoring was no longer set, with a group of people that were called out from the community in order to be able to maintain, establish, and solidify belief systems and understandings, and the keep the community together. It now fell on the shoulders of one individual, and Christianity now became an empirical religion that now we're now have to fight against, because of the fact that now we're realizing that all of this weight, all of the responsibility of keeping the community together, for praying and being faithful to the community and to the call, was not just for you, but it was for a community of people to assist and help for those things to occur. We have people now in place where they're starting to now go back in order to move forward and say, you know what, we're not going to do this the same way
Mhm.
because our mental health is important to us. And not just my mental health, but my family is important. And if I don't get this right, I can't get this right.
Yeah, I I was you brought up a great thought process, and by the way, we're going to run it seemingly tonight. Tonight, we're going to deal with it with spirituality and men. Uh,
Hmm.
my question that for the end of the night that hopefully will take us into the next part is what about mental health for people who don't believe in Christ?
Mm.
Men. How do we talk to them? For us, in Him we live, move, and have our being. But
Hmm.
for them, we still need to like figure out a way how to talk to them. When you're talking about the shared responsibility, um, I remember that Jesus says, "The Father is always with me. The Father has not left me alone." But
Hmm.
he made that statement before Gethsemane. He gets to Gethsemane, and all of a sudden he starts to stress.
Hmm.
He gets to Gethsemane, and all of a sudden his sweat begins to flow as drops of blood.
Yeah.
He finally gets to the cross, and he's like, "Father, why have you forsaken me?" Well, if we follow the stress pattern begins at Gethsemane,
Yeah.
and the thought process of he's going to have to carry this thing alone, which
Yeah.
is um, um, uh, connected to what you were saying.
Hmm.
Um, Also, um, the narrative that the man has to drive it puts us back in the flow of the man is going to be seen and heard, and the woman's going to stay in the background.
Hmm.
And I think we were screwed from the beginning, Bishop. I think we were, because we were always supposed to be strong, and women were considered weak because they were emotional. But as you stated, I believe the position that we gave women to be emotional
Hmm.
leaves them emotionally more balanced than us because they have a way of purging their soul.
Yes.
um, we don't have a way of purging our soul because we're supposed to be strong. They expect us to be strong. Our babies expect us to be strong, and because of that, we we do we do now what we used to do with chicken grease when we were done frying it back in the 70s and 80s.
Hmm.
Okay, now that's all I said. I'm asking you, what did we used to do with grease and stuff when we were done frying it?
If it was still capable of being used, we would put it in a container.
Yep, we
Put it
would
in the
put it on
put
the
it in a,
shelf.
in a Folgers can
Yep, until we needed it
until we
again.
needed it again. Yeah.
Until we need it again. And that's what we do with men's emotions.
Hmm.
That's what we've been taught to do with our emotions. We put it on the shelf
Yeah.
until we need it again. Coach T said something so crazy to me, Bishop, or to us, that when I got off the phone, when we got off the live, I took time out and I cried.
Hmm.
She said, there's nothing more important than presence.
Yeah.
Even though we were talking about parenting at the time, she
Hmm.
said presence means everything. And if you don't have someone in your presence who's looking at you
Hmm.
and like, are you okay? Are you okay? Sometimes you're sitting there, and this is every man, ladies. So don't go asking your man, is it him? Because you want to feel better about, like, you want to be able to take yourself out this equation. This is every woman and every man. Okay, ready? Every man has sat in his house and wondered at some point, does my lady see that I'm struggling with this? Every man, Bishop, am I telling the truth? Every man has had that thought. Does my lady know that I'm struggling with this? Or is she so used to being able to lean on me, so used to my strength that she can just go and skip through the house and skip through life and never figure out something's wrong with my man? Or she finally finds out something's wrong, and the question is, why didn't you say something? Because I think what damages men's mental health is the fact that the rules keep changing for men. For the woman, many times. Now here's the broad brush. So I want to be fair. Here's my broad brush. When a woman is going through, she expects her man to notice it.
Yeah.
Why didn't you see it? Well, why didn't you pick up on it? But when the roles are reversed, then it was, well, why didn't you say something? Because the struggle is of how certain things are received. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna turn it back over to you, sir. So women, when they hear a man's thoughts, and a man when he hears a woman's thoughts, many times comes off different. Okay. When a woman hears, when a man hears a woman's thoughts, even if he don't like it, he still receives it as a form of critique. Because it's, okay, this is what she said. How do I make this better? How do I fix this? Why? She noticed it. I agree with what she noticed. How do I fix it? So that's how a man processes a woman's thoughts, his woman's thoughts, through critique. When a woman processes her man's thoughts, many times, broad brushing, she processes it through condemnation. So when a man says, this ain't right, I don't like this, this ain't working, she internalizes it. I'm not enough. I'm not enough. If I ain't enough, then who is enough for you? Who's giving you that time? You all this stuff, the head shake, all that stuff comes. They process it through condemnation, and I wondered about that, and I was like, I said, God, I said, this is so frustrating. Where do they get that they're the problem? And this is me and my prophetic self, okay? I heard the Spirit of the Lord, he laughed, and he said, go back to your biblical origins. So I go back to Adam and Eve. And up until this time, the Bible does not mention that Adam and Eve had any type of intimacy until after the fall. After the fall, after they got kicked out of the garden and they're estranged from God. Now all of a sudden, here comes intimacy. Every woman knows that. This ain't a man's thoughts. This is what I heard my grandmom say. So let me put this out there. This is what I heard my grandmom say. My grandmom said it's easier to talk to a man when he got the two things he wants the most. When he got his food, and when y'all laying in the bed, y'all get it, right? We all grown. She said, after you've cooked for him, and after you've cooked for him, he's able to talk.
Yeah.
So the Bible says that after they get kicked out of Eden, Adam has sex with his wife. And after he has sex with her, he names her. Ready? Hey, Bishop, what is Christmas Eve? Define it for me quickly.
Okay, Christmas Eve is the day before Christmas.
Real quickly, define New Year's Eve.
It's the day before New Year's Day.
Okay. So what does Eve mean?
Eve means, oh Lord.
Yes. What does
Eve means, well, I would take it from what comes before.
What comes before? So
Yeah.
after Adam sleeps with Eve, sleeps with his woman, then he names her. And every time he calls her, he's reminding her of what life looked like before.
Oh.
He keeps reminding her that name reminds her that we had it better before you messed up.
Oh, wow. I never.
This is connected to the narrative that women should be quiet all through the Bible, right? It's not true. It's just a lying narrative. But that's how it comes through condemnation. So we find we've used the scriptures in order to shut down the moving, lifting voice of the woman. And so that's how it starts. Eve, before. Every time I see you now, I think about that angel with the flaming sword that won't let us back into our old home. I keep on thinking about the conversation you had with the serpent seraphim that threw off our whole life. And now the name comes with condemnation, because now the woman has to live in a space where I'm constantly reminded of my mistakes. When a man is constantly reminded of his mistakes too. Y'all aren't exempt from that. But he still has to roll out the bed and go and watch this. And just like women, sometimes he has to be everything for everybody, and nobody asks him, is he okay? Now, most of the men that I've talked to, they tell me they can tell when something's going on with their woman. I'm not saying white, because some of them ain't married. But they'll always be like, babe, you good? You okay? And 80% of the time, women lie. I'm good. Why? Because the woman knows that the man does not have the capacity to, at that moment, to deal with all of the things that are incorporated into the lie she told about, I'm good. So at some point, we're going to have this conversation about communication, because women think it's a mercy she's given to her man to lie. It's a mercy to say, I'm okay. But the moment she does that, it puts more pressure on the man. Now he's trying to figure out what's wrong with you. And it's like, man, and all this stuff, ladies and gentlemen, this is pressure. This is all pressure. And the reason why men have strokes is because of stress. Yeah, you might say, Adam, it's also high blood pressure from them smoking them cigarettes. Why are they smoking them cigarettes? Stress. There's a lot of times where what the man is going and growing through, we're not taking time out to have those conversations. And that's the reason why for women's mental health, we'll have the highest numbers we've ever had in the history of the LYFE Forum. And then for men's mental health, because there is an expectation on men to be strong.
Yeah.
Right? In the Old Testament, that's what you would hear God say, be strong and be very courageous.
Mm-hmm.
In the New Testament, you hear be strong in the Lord. And so the mentality that is needed for men of God, spiritual men, Christian men, is to find themselves in God, because many times men don't know how to rest.
Mm-hmm.
We watch this, y'all. If 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 Bishop Brian has worked 11 straight days, ministry, giftings, all this stuff, and he comes in the house and he sits down on the bed and he crashes, right? And he sleeps for 4 straight hours. Many of you would assume he got some rest. No, that's his body was waiting for him to breathe a little bit, shutting down. It's like an emergency moment, right? So he has not rested. He just slept. He just slept. He doesn't wake up refreshed. He just wakes up like he can do a little bit more now. And that is most men. So Bishop, why is it you were talking about shared responsibility. Is it a shared responsibility that we are unseen? Yeah, I guess that's the question. Is it a shared responsibility? What don't men tell women? What don't women tell men? How do you foster a safe relationship if we can't be honest with each other? Like, tell me something. When Coach walks in the house and she goes, "Babe, you look tired." 9 times out of 10, do you agree with her, or do you say, "I'm good, babe"?
I'll be honest. Most of the time, I say I'm good.
And what does "I'm good" mean to you?
I'm good means that I am already. Is that I've left the door open for whatever you might need from me. In the moment, I might be tired. I might be very tired.
Okay.
But but um, but I'm not necessarily. But here's the thing: I'm not honest. I wouldn't be honest about the fact that yes, I need a break because I leave myself open and available to whatever the family needs because that's what I feel like my responsibility.
Ability is. So you're not. So when you say "I'm good," you're not saying "I'm okay." You're saying I don't want you to not tell me what you need.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
Right. And I think, but I think that's the problem that we tend to find ourselves in because we don't feel like we have the ability to say when we are not okay. And
So you're
and
saying
it's,
that most men, you're saying we feel like it's not okay to say we're not okay.
yes,
Okay.
I feel like we find ourselves in a place where it's not okay to say I'm not okay because again it goes back to what I said before that when it comes to what feels like complaint, there's no room for that. Things got to get done, things got to get moved, things got to get things got to continue to go. So go ahead, suck it up, endure, and go ahead and do what you need to do. That's not to say that's not to say that that's not necessarily true, but we don't give there are times where we don't give ourselves room to at least take a beat
Yes,
and
sir.
say, you know what, I need a break. I need to rest. I'm not physically okay. I'm not mentally okay. And what happens is that because we don't do that, the crash out happens. And the crash out can happen in any way. It could come through rage, it could come through anger, it could come through it could come through an affair.
Yes, sir.
It could come in. It could come in many ways. It could come through, like we talked about. It could come through suicide. It could come through a lot of things because we have not fully um, been honest with ourselves, so we can't be honest with those people that's around us. Um, One thing that I was sitting in a service and the pastor was saying that he had a conversation with his doctor, and he was talking about, you know, some health things that was going on with him, and the doctor said to him, he said, you do have some physical health problems, but you don't have a health problem. You've got a value problem. And so he didn't understand what he was saying. So he said it again. Doctor said it again. And he said, he was like, you've got a value problem because if you valued yourself, then your health will come in alignment with the value that you see on yourself.
Oh, sir.
So when I tell you that was a strong aha moment for me, because I was like, oh my gosh, because and the problem with that we is that the value problem is not about the fact that we don't have any value for anything, but our value has been misconstrued because we find ourselves um taking more value in what we do than rather who we are. We take more, and we have to understand we are not in our doings. We are not who we are based upon what we do. We're who we are based upon who just we are. And a lot of times we value ourselves based upon what we bring to the table rather than you just being exactly who you are. Now that's not to say what you bring to the table is not important, but what happens when you run into a season to where you no longer produce the way that you used to? Because it's not about if it'll happen, it's when it will happen.
Yes, sir.
And
Yes.
when that season comes, how do you respond? Or do you even feel like you have the ability to share how that makes you feel because you've based everything on what you're doing, and you've made and you've almost made this unsaid this unsaid reality that everybody else, they only value you for what you do for them. Wife, children, family, the church, whatever you have responsibility for, we have taken on that non-spoken reality that says nobody cares about me besides what I do and what I bring. And
Bishop.
unfortunately, because of that culture, our and I'll say it, some of our wives some of our wives have have engrafted that kind of culture. Some of our children have engrafted that kind of culture because we have allowed that value system to be in our doings and not in our being.
Bishop, listen, man. Um, I just made a note about the 45-minute mark because I feel like this is when we dropped off the planet. This is the rabbit hole right here.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So I remember I was talking to a friend of mine, and he had an argument with his wife, and his wife um, said what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody values me, blah, blah, blah. I do this, I do that for the kids, blah, 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 blah. And then he said, what do you do for me? And she said, I make you dinner. He said, I could do that myself. He
Mm-hmm.
said, I take care of you. He said, I could do that myself.
Mm-hmm.
I wash your clothes. I can do that. And he said, but you're missing it. What are you doing for me? Like the man, the person in me.
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing for that person? And she couldn't answer. And when I said we dropped off the rabbit hole because you said that sometimes that I lost it that fast, but it was like something like adultery can be connected to mental health. And I remember that I remember somebody who stepped into they weren't married, so it wasn't an adultery, it was infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
But for all of a sudden their energy changed.
Mm-hmm.
And having a conversation with them, they started telling me about this new female that they had ran into and encountered. And when they started talking about met up at IHOP and blah blah blah, she was dressed to impress, because she knew she was going to see him, blah blah blah. And I'm listening, and I said, "And you're not getting that at home?" He said, "No, man." He said, "My wife don't dress for me no more. We married now." You know what I mean? She's not trying. She always wants me in pursuit of her, but she's not trying to do anything for me. And I'm sitting there, and I was like, and I realized that I wasn't dealing with infidelity.
Mm-hmm.
I was dealing with rage.
Mm.
I was dealing with disappointment because the woman who went out of her way to get his attention has a long time ago exited stage left.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes the reason why infidelity steps into a relationship is because of the honor and the value that's given by the new person looking at the male or the female, as opposed to what they used, the honor and appreciation that they used to give. Now, is it right? No. But is it true?
Mm-hmm.
Is it true? Yes. And so what does a male or a female do when they're getting, like I said, we in a rabbit hole. What do we do now that we realize that even the lack of honor and the fact that we are willing to respond to another individual because of the lack of honor or the lack of attention, that is a mental health issue as well. So we're coming all the way back, like full circle, sir, because I feel like you gave us our answer, that the true space of mental health awareness for men or for women is having the proper value in the way that you see yourself. Is that fair?
What's fair? Oh,
Okay,
as far as, go ahead.
You were talking about the value. So if I have a correct view of my value,
yeah,
then I'm going to take care of my mental health.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And
yes.
And are we able to fairly and safely track most issues back to a lack of value?
Yes. And here's the thing, because you said something not too long ago that I wanted to touch on. I think one thing I do believe that we do that's an issue is that we wait to approach a situation when we are angry, when these are consistent conversations that we've been needing to have, even before there's a feeling or a sense of anger that occurs. For example, if we know, and if we have a value system in and of ourselves, it shouldn't take us to get angry. And I have that issue as well. it should not take it should not take me to be enraged at something in order for me to finally share it. Because what happens is that my words can't be heard because there's too much emotion behind it.
Yes, sir.
So now we've got to deal with the emotion before we can deal with the information.
Yes.
And the pro which kind of leads me to back to the conversation as far as the importance of the male voice and us speaking up, not just for other people but for ourselves, which goes back to Genesis. Now, as much as the scripture says that Eve was deceived, the the scripture does say that. Now, I don't know whether Adam was sitting next to her, standing next to her, or she just happened to bring the fruit along and say, "Here, go ahead and eat this fruit." One thing that I do know is that Adam had a responsibility before she got there.
Absolutely.
And even if, now there's two things that's an issue in that scripture. One, if he was standing there, I have a problem with him.
Absolutely.
Two, if he wasn't standing there and she brought the fruit, I would have a problem because you know what that fruit looks like.
Yes, sir.
So even if she brought it, why didn't you say, no, but we can't do that.
Right.
We can't, we can't do it. You ate it. I'm not doing it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? At that point, his voice was necessary, not his compliance. Because when he started to comply, boom. It wasn't until because she had eaten it already. She knew what it tasted like.
Right. Just chumping away.
Yeah. And then by the time he ate it, boom, all of a sudden something happens. Some things start to move. So that makes me believe that there was a certain level of weight and responsibility to his voice that came with that came with his decision making.
Yes, sir.
So now if we look at things going on now as far as men, specifically men in the home, specifically, we also have to take into consideration that maybe we're not speaking enough. We're not speaking enough, and not speaking enough to the aspect of having those conversations without it having to be an issue to have it. Why can't we say to our wives, "I am not happy"? And it has nothing to do with you. I love you, but I am not happy in how things are moving, how things are functioning. Because at the end of the day, you are just as important to the dynamic of the home as she is. So if she, so just because she's happy, that I understand what it says: a happy wife, a happy life. But at the end of the day, an unhappy man can be just as bad.
Yeah.
If not worse.
Happy house, happy spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. It should be that way.
Yeah. So it's our responsibility. And if nobody, and here's a good tidbit for brothers, if nobody can value you, you should. And I think that's the responsibility. The value system goes back into our core, because we have to have a level of value system for ourselves. So that way, even if there's there's no sense of value for us, for our being for other things and other people, we have enough ability to stand on our own 2 feet and say, "I value me over all of this, and I am not okay." And I have emotional intelligence enough to say, because I am not okay, nothing in this house can be okay. And it's not saying I'm standing on business. It just means I understand the dynamic of man and woman together. We need to be able to know when when one of us is not doing okay. And in order for that to happen, I have to allow myself to be very cognizant of my feelings and my emotions and be honest with them.
Mhm.
Because if I'm not honest, it causes so many more things. That's why we have that's why we become sick, because we're not honest. That's why we create bad habits for ourselves, because we're not honest. We've got to set a space in our life to where we value ourselves enough to be able to speak up for ourselves from an emotional standpoint. We speak up for ourselves in so many other ways and so many other things. But when it comes to an emotional standpoint, we have a hard time doing it because we feel like it makes us weak. It doesn't make us weak. It actually makes us strong.
Bishop, when you
Because when I can deal with me, I can deal with you.
yeah, can you make a note so I don't forget? We need to talk about the intelligent man. We need
Hmm.
to talk about the intelligent man because what we forget is that God brings all the animals to Adam and says, "Name them."
Hmm.
He named them. That was the name thereof. So then God,
Hmm.
when God creates the woman and brings the woman before Adam, we never pay attention to the fact that he names her twice.
Yeah.
The first time he names her woman because she came out of me.
Hmm.
And then the next time he names her, he changed her name to Eve, which we already talked about.
Yeah.
But many times the intelligent man is discarded.
Hmm.
And whether they're disregarded for like you said, for the energy that we bring when we finally had enough,
Yeah.
or they're like, what's wrong with him? And many times the most annoying thing I've ever heard in my 40 some years of amazing living experience is when I listen to a woman who told me another woman gave her advice um, about me.
Hmm.
It's like, you should have asked me, or you should have
Right.
asked
Right.
another man. You know what I mean? Because we're all going through this, and maybe many times the challenge for for our family members is appreciating the intelligent man in their midst.
Hmm.
Maybe there's a man that's watching um, uh, this, and you're saying to yourself, they treat me like I'm crazy. They treat me like my opinion don't matter, but I'm not stupid. And if they gave me a chance, I could show them everything I see, because the very first job that was given to man was management and
Hmm.
supervisory experience. That's why when Bishop said, if he was there, it's on him. And even if he wasn't there, it's still on him, because he knew what that fruit looked like. And from a supervisory capacity,
Yeah.
if God gave him everything that was connected to the garden,
Yeah.
then he should have known what was going on. And I
Mm.
think that many times the man's oversight, his ability to see past sight and to think past thought, I believe that that is underestimated, because maybe because we're out of the house so much, um, they think that we can't know what's going on in the house. But I know that if I've been looking at a painting for too long,
Hmm.
I gravitate to what I've been looking at.
Yes.
And if I call somebody else over and say, "What do you see?" Guarantee you, after we get past the big stuff, they're going to gravitate to something I did not see, because they haven't been in the house or looking at this painting as long as I have. And
Mm.
so many times I feel, I used to hate that phrase.
Hmm.
I feel, because then it meant that you're basing your thoughts off of feelings.
Hmm.
So I had to change my thought process to what I've observed,
Mm.
because I've really seen this. What I'm observing is this, and what I'm observing is um, that a lot of spaces where men don't have honor, where men have mental health issues because they don't have honor. Many times, abusive men who've watched their fathers be abusive, who watch their fathers be abusive, only watch their fathers be abusive because their father had some imbalance going on, some dishonor, and he lashed out in the wrong way. And so what Bishop was just talking about was talking.
Hey guys, how are you doing? This is Pastor Brian Morris. Listen, I just wanted to stop by and I wanted to send some level of encouragement. I don't know what you guys are dealing with. I don't know what you might be experiencing, but at the end of the day, I want you to understand this, that you could be in a position to where you feel like that you don't know what's going on. You don't know how you're going to get where you need to go. You don't know how you're going to get what you need to get in order to fulfill the thought and the desire and the vision that you feel like you have. But let me tell you this, God is always in a place to where he is fulfilling and bringing things in front of you and before you that's going to allow you to complete. His intention for you is to always fulfill and complete whatever it is that you were designed in the earth to do. Understand that you are on the mind of God. Understand that you are that you are always on God's mind for fulfillment and completion. You are on the way to your fullest potential. You are on your way to manifesting purpose and design. You are on your way to being everything that God has called you to be. All you need to do is allow yourself to trust the process. Trust the process of where you're walking toward. Trust the process of what you see. Trust the process of what you've heard, because what you've heard was not a figment of your imagination, but it was the literal purpose and design that God intended for your life. You're not crazy. Your purpose has been shown. Your purpose has been seen. Walk with God. Continue to allow him to order your steps, because your purpose, because your favor and everything you need for your journey can be found in the steps as you walk forward through the process. I hope that this helps you. God bless you. I'll see you later. I love you. Bye-bye.
Guarantee you, after we get past the big stuff, they're going to gravitate to something I did not see because they haven't been in the house or looking at this painting as long as I have. And so many times I feel, I used to hate that phrase. I feel, because then it meant that you're basing your thoughts off of feelings. So I had to change my thought process to what I've observed, because I've really seen this. What I'm observing is this, and what I'm observing is that a lot of spaces where men don't have honor, where men have mental health issues because they don't have honor. Many times, abusive men who've watched their fathers be abusive, who watch their fathers be abusive, only watch their fathers be abusive because their father had some imbalance going on, some dishonor, and he lashed out in the wrong way. And so what Bishop was just talking about was talking before, communicating before you get to that place of rage, or communicating before you get to that place where your tone discounts your issue. And here's my other question, Bishop, and I know that we're about to end. So here's my question. Here goes a personal question for you. Is it difficult being married to a psychologist who is about to get her PhD? Is it difficult being a husband to a wife / doctor? Do you find yourself trying to have, because you're intelligent, so do you find yourself trying to phrase a question? And I know all of the Life Forum really wants this question answered, so y'all are welcome. Do you find yourself trying to phrase a question that gets the response from your wife and not the doctor? Do you need next week? Do you need to do you want to table it till next week so you can think on it? Because I believe I like my wife is book smarter than me, right? Mm-hmm. And so she was a retired Marine. She's seen the world and stuff like that. And so there are times that she starts talking that I feel like I don't really feel like I'm involved in this conversation. Right. So, but then there's times, and there's the reverse. So when I'm having conversations with her, sometimes I'm trying to honor her as a Marine without her answering me as one.
As a Marine, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it can be difficult because well, first of all, I know when the hat comes on.
Got it.
I know once I can tell when she starts to what you call it is dang, what's the word? I can't think of it, but
when Dr. Morris is showing up,
when she starts to diagnose me.
Gotcha. Okay.
She's trying to diagnose the situation, and I'm like, don't do that. don't do that, because then she'll go, well, what I hear you saying, I said, don't do that. See what you're doing. Don't,
now tell me something in your head, right? Mm-hmm. That would be like so even if you're married to a teacher,
yes,
and the teacher does that, mm-hmm. Do you feel like the change in her mind that turns you into a patient, mm-hmm. discounts your opinion as a husband when you say don't do that?
I mean, I don't think so. It's just that because I've grown to the point with me where it's like, okay, I don't need a diagnosis. I just need to talk. Like I'm getting comfortable. I'm getting comfortable with me as a especially as a man, to have conversation without solution at the moment. Because it's not about the solution. It's more so about the release.
Got it.
So whenever I get to that point, it's kind of like, let's hold off on the conversation of what's going to come next. I just need to go ahead and get this out. With her, it's more so like her mind starting to work about like, how can we do this? How can we do that? And it's like, okay, I don't need to do that right now. Mm-hmm. I really just need to feel, and then get it out of me, and then let's move on into a solution-based thing. But right now, that's not what I need. Now she's really able to understand that. But when she was first doing her studies, because she was so engrafted in it, it was hard to turn off.
Okay. But and so is it as a husband of a professional doctor, like, mm-hmm. is it difficult watching her live a life of continued conversations that for me, right, a continued conversation never has an end, so it never has an answer. And so it kind of seems like we never actually have a conclusion
Mm-hmm.
as a I don't even know why, but I really feel like I need to ask this question
Mm-hmm.
because there's a husband out there who's married to a professional like this,
Yeah.
and if you're married to someone like that who always has ongoing conversations and never has a solution, never has an a stop
Mm-hmm.
point in conversations, do you see a space, sir, where that could be an issue? Now you're a pastor, um, about to be consecrated as a bishop. Congratulations for that. You're a husband, you're a father.
Mm-hmm.
Your observation is keen. You're also, as a musical director, praise and worship leader, all that stuff. So your job is so dependent on your observation of an atmosphere
Yes.
and a situation. So
Mm-hmm.
somebody else who is coming into your space, right? And they see that, how do you navigate that level of my wife is in a career
Mm-hmm.
that is of an ongoing conversation, and because of that, I'm when and I'm trying to get to a stop point.
Mm-hmm. Um, I have to. That's a good question. One thing that I do have to do is I have to gauge what kind of conversation it is,
Okay,
because there are some conversations that do have stop points, but then there are other conversations, like you said, that are ongoing. Instead of saying ongoing, I call them journeying,
got it.
where journeying conversations, where they might never have a stop a end point, because there's always journeying to do. You
Okay,
may have checkpoints, but you don't have stop points.
got it. Got it.
And you just need to know exactly what conversations um those are. You need to really identify what conversations um have an end have an end goal have an end well, yeah, I don't say end goal, have an end goal, or have a stop point, and then what conversations you will continue to be having throughout your relationship, because those things just need to be either need to be touched on, they either need to be reframed, revised, or whatever like that. So you're always going to come back to it, because honestly, because we are always ever changing, always evolving individuals, it will always be two new people having the same conversation.
Okay,
And you
okay,
always need to have a checkpoint to where let's check back in with one another, where you are individually, because where you are individually is going to affect how what we are in a together. So you're always going to be journeying through that.
okay,
So yeah, so there's always so there's conversations where I just know that they're always going to cycle back around, just because of the fact that those are just journeying conversations.
okay. You're a in the order that God has called you. You're a husband, a father, a pastor, a
Mhm.
worship leader. I want to ask you on mental health, and this will be my last question.
Mhm.
And afterwards, you can tell me like where we're going to do this again, because I feel like this part really is necessary, and we
Mhm.
just can't do this in a month.
Yeah.
Um, my question is, you have a lot to balance, and on this stage of life where you have to you can't you're not just a husband, but
Mhm.
you're a husband, you're the husband of a spiritual general and leader,
Mhm.
as a consecrated, um as a bishop elect, about to be a consecrated bishop. You're a natural father, and um you're a father of an autistic child.
Mhm.
So as my initial question was going to be, um, do you deal as a husband? Do you deal with the wife and the apostle the same? As a father, do you deal with your baby girl who has levels of autism, and then your other children who seemingly don't, right? And
Mhm.
and 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 how are you all of that in the same room in the same situation? So everybody's at the house, question comes up, and your wife answers it, and when you respond, you have to speak to the wife and the apostle and the professional and all your children. How? Like I've told you I respect you before, but I guess maybe you didn't know why. Like the the you have to answer a question with all of us around. You have to minister it so that no one loses value, and while you don't discount you. I am so intrigued by that,
Mhm.
because that's a Jesus moment.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You got the Sadducees, Pharisees, you got the disciples, you got the Sanhedrin, you got the people, the disciples, and you
Yeah.
got to answer it. I'm wondering, has that always been easy for you?
Um, from what I feel like, I think you're saying, for me, when it comes to my wife, yes,
Okay.
because my value is in Shazetta, and everything else. Like like she's apostle, yes. She's gonna be doctor, yes. She's gonna be all of this stuff, yeah. But yes. But see, the problem is that if you've got somebody who values apostle, they don't value Shazetta.
Okay. Okay.
If you got somebody that's going to value doctor, they're not going to value Shazetta. And at the end of the day, to me, she's always got to be Shazetta. What does that mean? That means that I have a honor system for Shazetta. Because for some people, that means, oh, it's just Shazetta, which means that there's a disrespect attached to it.
Wow.
When it's not that. That's not the thing. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying she is Shazetta. My honor first begins with her.
It's only Shazetta first,
It's
right?
only her. It's only her. And then all of these things that are connected or attached to her, I respect, but I respect, but the core of that belongs to her.
Jesus, Bishop. So your core is value. That's a core value of yours.
Yeah.
Honor. I I was me myself. I'm always thinking about the different sides of individuals, right? And
Hmm.
because of that, um, I I missed that. I
Hmm.
missed it.
Hmm.
'Cause as soon as when you said it, it just like it made so much sense. But for how does somebody make wrong question?
And I
How
think, and
does
I mean, to your, I don't know if that's what you're trying to say, but that's to my point. That's where a lot of times I can have respect. I can, I'm capable of being behind the curtain when it comes to people who are in leadership, and not, and they won't be what others people consider, they won't be they won't lose their anointing because of what I know.
Got it.
You
Okay.
know what I mean?
Okay.
Because a lot of times, and I say this all the time, most of the time people don't really know what anointing is, because people are only anointed because you don't know them. You don't know.
Got it.
But once you find out something real bad about them, all of a sudden their anointing's gone. Well, how did it happen? It ain't about what you know or what you feel is the anointing. It's about the fact that you thought that this person was clean. You thought that this person was good in every area, didn't have any flaws. And once you saw one flaw, all of a sudden their level of anointing just dropped. No, I always go into a space to where I value the person.
Okay.
I see you, and then everything around you is added. So you are important, not just not just what you do. So then for my wife, what more would that be for my wife? Where at the end of the day, she was this amazing person before I met her. She was, and she's still this absolutely amazing person. But at the end of the day, she's Shazetta to me, and I
Got
respect everything else that comes with her. I honor that. That's not said out of disrespect. That
it.
comes
No, no, I get it.
yeah,
I
she's Shazetta to me, and because because she's Shazetta, I honor everything that Shazetta is.
see as a I hear prophetically. I hear clapping for women. Women are clapping for you all over the world. Because my question was, how do you take all the things that everybody is in the room, and I'm thinking from a mental state,
From
right?
mental state.
And
Okay.
how do you speak to all their answers and value them? And then you were like, no, Adam, I was thinking, how do you answer and value? And you were like, no, Adam, it's value first.
Okay. Yeah.
Values first. And
Yes.
that's what
Yes.
I've been missing.
Yeah.
I've been missing the value first. And it popped in while you were just talking now. I was wanting to ask you, Bishop, how does somebody, because I envy that. I envy
Mhm,
that in you. How
mhm.
does somebody alter or adjust core values?
Oh, you have to excavate. That requires a lot of excavation. That
Okay.
requires you to do a lot of digging, because when we start to deal with those things, we're starting to deal um, with how you think of things, and how you think of people. So that's an internal inventory that you got to take in and of yourself in order for you really to be able to start that work. How do you feel about yourself? And then after you feel about how do you feel about yourself, how do you feel about people? Because once you start to really hone into that, you start to now get into the space to where now you start to affect your core values,
Okay.
because that's a lot of digging into your past, childhood, things that have literally reared you unspoken realities, unspoken cultures that have been established in your life, that now cause you to be in a place to that now have caused you to look at certain things and certain people, the way people do things, a certain way, and then
Okay.
that affects your value system.
Wow. Okay, I'll stop.
Yeah, that affects your value system. But again, that goes back to our previous conversation about self value, about how we're not just our doings, but it is about our being. At the end of the day, I hear people talk about the prodigal son. The prodigal son said, "Give me my inheritance." So the father gave him his money, and he went off and spent it. But then he came back home, and I think he was so hard. He came back home, and he was ready to be a servant, but his father made him a son. Why? Because his inheritance was not in the money; it was in his blood.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You didn't lose your inheritance. You lost. You might have squandered.
The money.
You might have squandered a few things, but you didn't squander your inheritance because the inheritance has never been in the money; it's been in the blood.
That's powerful.
And when it comes, and I thought that was powerful when I thought about it because, and just the fact that Jesus would even make that kind of parable because look, our inheritance it's in the blood. It's in the blood. It's in your beingness, not in your doingness. Not what you do is who you are. And when us as brothers, when we understand that and we understand that we are valuable just being and not just doing, then I do believe that that will change. It will make us healthier. It'll make us better, and it'll actually make us appreciate what we do with our hands rather than the other way around. We need to be able to appreciate us before we appreciate what we do, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And when we understand, and when we do that, all things start to come together. Our health, our mental health, our physical health, all those things. Because if I realize that I'm worth it, that I am worth it, not what I do, I won't cause any physical harm to myself with unhealthy lifestyles, unhealthy things, um, doing unhealthy things, and being with people who will help support an unhealthy space in my life by trying to continue to produce by any means necessary. No, if I have a value for myself and know that at the end of the day that I am valuable, whether this happens or not, it changes the way that I produce, and I produce in a way that is positive, not just for me, but for everybody around me.
You gave me my benediction.
Yeah.
It's wow, man. That's
Yeah.
good stuff.
Yeah, but we definitely had to have this conversation again. We definitely got to have this conversation. This was a good conversation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because this, um, you can't. We start off talking about men, but because of everything a man comprises, it has to include the relationships. It has to include the family.
Hmm.
It has to include how someone values themselves. All that stuff. It's the intelligent man
Yeah,
and all of the things that comprise the intelligent man. We've been watered down to sex and sympathy.
yeah,
Sex, sympathy, and soul food.
yeah.
And it's like there's so much more to us than this.
There is, there is.
Good stuff.
Yeah, yeah. But all right, guys, I thank you so much for being with us for this live forum. This was a good one. We're going to have another one after this, so stay tuned. We love you guys. Have a great night. Woo.
Y'all know what that is? It's amazing.
Evolution Church South Florida would like to invite you to worship with us. You can connect via our second Sunday virtual community or meet us in person for our fourth Sunday experience. Both begin at 3 p.m. sharp. Remember, this is the place where we explore, expand, and evolve. See you soon.